Old World, Florida.
Old World, Florida.
Old World, Florida. Dude, I'm telling you, dude. Dr. Narco Longo came on and dropped the hammer of the god.
America's mother, daughter of Atlantis. God sent the weatherland. The devil sent the Spanish. Florida is Eden, the phantom of youth, Carly is deception. So Florida is the truth.
Welcome to Florida, baby.
Dr. Narco Longo.
Florida, it is everything. There's too much truth bombs being dropped. I can't digest it all.
Old World, Florida.
Please welcome Dr. Narco Longo.
That's how we do it, y'all. What's up? Hope everyone's having a good night. It's 8:26 here in South Florida, and I'm joined by a favorite of the channel. I guess you could say regular. Hopefully, Christopher Gardner, the Toph himself, the gardener of Eden, right? The raker, the hoe man himself. He's a builder. He's got a bit of a green thumb. And yeah, we're going to be talking about some cool stuff. So, Topher, man, thanks for joining us.
Dr. Longuito, good to be back.
Shell, yeah, man. We were talking about some interesting stuff off cam, getting ready, making you guys wait.
Yes.
Milking out the sweet minutes. But yeah, what have you been up to recently?
Been making lots of biochar. We had a festival, I guess you would say national festival here, like near my home farm in Missouri. And so I presented my invention for, I've been working on for 12 years, 13 years now. God, it's 2023. Yeah, I made this just a modification to an older invention to make biochar. And so I introduced that and taught all the people all about carbon and the beautiful actual geometry that carbon holds. I'm a geometry nerd, so as you already know. So I had fun presenting how the interplay between the water molecule, which encodes phi, and how phi 5 to 6, like 5 to the 6-sided carbon, how that works and what that does in nature.
Now, you want to tell people what you where you were just attending and what was going on? And
yeah, I was at the Barataria Times National Festival, and it's like a homesteading festival for families. It's pretty cool. It's like a dry festival. There's no like drugs or drinking or anything. And tons of kids, like anybody that has kids, like you want to be there because there's literally, thousands of kids running around and just having a good time. And it's a really simple affair. One huge tent, bunch of vendors, just really down to earth people, just people wanting to get gravy. This year, the comedian Owen Benjamin, he had his first stand up in, I believe, 4 years. So they filmed his special Noble Savage, and it was just great to see him in his element. I don't think I've ever gone to go see a comedian live, but he doing a clean set, it was awesome. Usually I don't laugh at clean stuff. I have a pretty depraved mind. I love like South Park and all the Rick and Morty and all that type of stuff. So to have such a clean set and have it be funny was a great show for him. You're muted.
Sorry. I said, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to attend the next one.
Yeah, come up. And then you can stay with us. We're living next to the Living Waters here. I'm on a lake, on a 50-acre lake. It's all spring fed. We have spring fed water on my farm. We're doing lots of really good stuff up here.
Dude, Shelia. So let's talk about biochar. Something I recently found out about, and is that Florida has its own psychedelic mushroom. Natural,
Really?
native, yes, psilocybin. And it was discovered in like the 70s. I'll just pull it up. So here, what's it called? Tampa mushroom. It's called Psilocybe tampanensis. So just like Tampa mushroom, that's what it's named after. And what's unique about this, from what I've seen, is that it's only it has something to do with charred earth after fires, like pine fire that happened in Florida. So from what I've seen this is not a poop mushroom, that this grows wild. What did it say? Wild in a sandy meadow is where they found it originally. 1977. Would not be found again until 44 years later. Right? The original Florida specimen was cloned and descendants remain in wide circulation. So a lot of American magic mushrooms actually come from this, and no one even realizes it.
I was about to say, the magic mushrooms I've picked look exactly like that.
Well, this grows wild in the Tampa Bay area only. And the nickname for this, they call it the Philosopher's Stone. See this? The Philosopher's Stones. Used for recreational or entheogenic purposes. Rare form of protection from wildfires and other natural disasters. So these reproduce, from what I can tell.
Well, that's the whole thing with having carbon. That's what I was explaining to everybody, is carbon is the matter matrix for mycelium. If you don't have carbon, you won't have mycelium growth. So like mycorrhizal mycelial growth is like really what allows for all nutrient transport in soil. And so having something like biochar, even if you want to be a punk and just use regular carbon, all those things help mycelial growth. So that makes total sense to me that all these little fungi would, prop up after a big fire.
Yeah, I think these ones have a little extra juice to them because Tampa Bay is not a bad place to be born.
It's not
the lightning capital of America, of
Yeah.
the world, according to some.
I always loved Tampa Bay. I haven't been there in a long time, but when I was a teenager and in my early 20s, it was a really fun area to go to. And 77, that's a good year.
Mm-hmm. So, for those that don't know, Florida the Everglades, a lot of the pine forests here are meant to burn. So if two pine trees hit each other on the fall, right, if one's falling and kind of scrapes the other, it's almost a guaranteed like burst of sparks or embers. And they're very dry, so they create a lot of friction. The pine needles create a very like dry undergrowth under the trees. So these things are made to burn all the time, and they burn and burn, and you'll wake up in the morning in Florida, in East Florida, and you'll smell the smoke. So many mornings in Florida, it'll just smell like smoke. It'll be misty or foggy, but it's not mist. It'll be smoke from the Everglades. And this is pine trees burning themselves, or people burn them on purpose. But lightning does this a lot of times. They can fall and combust if they scrape up, like I said. But this is kind of the environment you might be finding some of those mushrooms in, is after a burn like that.
Definitely.
And in Tampa, with the lightning capital of America area, the word Tampa, I recently found out, in Tocobaga language, Tampa meant rods of light or lightning bolts.
That's awesome.
Tampa also in Latin, it means drum, or tempo. Tambor is drum in French, and French in Froggish. And then you have the timpani, you have a tambourine, tempo, like I said, but also to tamper in things. To tamper is to like meddle in affairs, right? To meddle with someone's affairs. But to temper, you temper a metal.
Yes.
By submerging it hot and cold very quick. And I don't know. To me, that all just indicates these lightning flashes, this extra dense electro.
That's really cool because I was told this. I never checked it, but apparently, I lived in the Diamante Valley, and Diamante in Spanish means diamond, but in Sanskrit it means lightning. And we had tons of lightning there. Like, it was like crazy amount of lightning. And the lightning, because it was a very tight valley, like when the lightning would hit anywhere within like the 7 miles of that valley, like, man, it just rang in your ears. So we all thought that was pretty amazing, that there would be that similarity between languages. And there was like a very like deep spiritual essence there.
Wow. So fucking old world Micmac, always on his A game. Okay. This guy's the real deal. Go check out old world Micmac if you don't already. Okay. No, I'm saying that to everyone out there, not you. No.
Okay.
The Tempest. Perfect. Because so the peninsula that juts out from Tampa, that guards it from the ocean. Tampa's breakwater, natural breakwater. It's a natural harbor, one of the best in the world. Is St. Petersburg. Okay, a Peter is your dick, right? Oh, Peter. If you show someone your Peter, okay. Well, St. Petersburg is a peninsula within a peninsula, right? Now that goes back to Jupiter as well, and you have the storms, right? You have all this energy, you have the lightning, you have all this electromagnetic energy, and then the tempest, just the tempest just ties us into the storm god even further, because you do, and the timpani is the thunder drum, is a boom, and it builds.
That's right. Yeah.
So the timpani is the thunder drum. And so Tampa definitely gets its phonetic root from that same. People observed the thunder gods, and the same noises have always came to their tongues, or it was an old empire that left their words. But either way, that's the story on Tampa and the mushrooms. I think we're going to try and get our hands on some soon, but we'll see.
Those look exactly. That's so cool. The similarity, because that Diamante Valley, that's where I picked. The only time I've ever picked magic mushrooms, and they looked exactly like what you just showed, was in the Diamante Valley in Costa Rica. And they grow out in the wild. There isn't any wildfires down there because it's so wet, but they do just grow out in the fields and everything. You have to know what to look for. But, and I have to say, my experience with them was just out of this world. Like meeting fairies, meeting little elves, meeting the keepers of the water. Like, it was like a fairy tale with these things.
We're going to get into fairy tales here, especially the way that word's phrased. I actually have a topic on that. Fairy tales, the tale of a fairy. But can I ask you, let's introduce you a little more.
Okay.
Toph goes by Bio Charisma, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the YouTube channel. Is that your Instagram name as well?
Yeah. Yes.
So on Instagram, Bio Charisma. Now, can I ask where that name comes from? Why bio and why charisma?
Well, I was just getting into biochar, and then one day, I guess it was 2013 or so, I was trying to think of something catchy to start a Facebook account with. And I had just read the definition of charisma, and it was like, whoa, I am that. And it has CHAR in there. So, hey, biocharisma. So to me, it was just perfect. It was like, oh, biocharisma. This just works out really well. Because I originally I was going to do fire to soil. And I thought that was pretty catchy. But biocharisma just kind of fit me as a whole overall. The temperance card. The temperance card, by the way, is 1-4, which is 5, and that was my number. That's the number I played under, was 14. So I love that. The temperance. Oh, he's in.
Sorry, yeah, I gotta send an important text. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Dude, fucking Mario, man, got to get you back on, dude. Here's another knockout home run hitter every time.
Yeah, Mario is awesome.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mario.
Have you guys done a chat?
Not yet. He has me like, at arm's length. I'm always like busting on him, like, hey, dude, we got to talk about the North Pole because I got some real gravy from a physics perspective. And he's just like, I'm busy. I'm an artist. Us artists, we're slow.
Oh, okay. Well, he always delivers. And thank you for that's an even further storm god connection with Tampa Bay. St. Petersburg is Jupiter, the storm god. You have Pinellas County, which is pineal land, the pine land of the pines, pineal. And temperance with Sagittarius, which rules, storms, thunderstorms for sure.
Yeah, and there's real magic with terpene and turpentine. There like the pine tree overall, the pine cone symbolizing the pineal gland, the turpentine as like the cure all. Like there's some real magic with that. It would make sense that if you had carbon biochar from the pine tree, that it would produce these beautiful mushrooms.
Dude, I think so. I think those mushrooms get a little extra juice, whether it's the lightning, whether it's the sinkholes and springs in the area, and all the radium and lithium and the groundwater. But thanks for bringing up turpentine, because I was been talking about the Garden of Eden a lot recently, and it being in America, you need some of the resources that are listed in Genesis, one of those being bdellium. Bdellium is essentially a sap or a resin taken out of a different type of tree. in Eurasia. So bdellium doesn't refer to the specific tree. It refers to the product, this sap, this resin.
Mhm.
And if the Southeast United States was somehow the old world, you would need gold, marble, and bdellium. And there is the principal industries of Florida and Georgia for a long time was pine sap, turpentine, like you're talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
yeah,
It's good stuff. Have you ever tried turpentine?
I haven't. No. Like medically, medicinally?
Medicinally, yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's really good. If you're ever like touching furry animals or you're ever exposed to well, you're always eating fruit, so you probably are exposed to some parasites that are on the fruit that you eat. It's
Oh, please. Classic carny psyop propaganda.
no, we're all like I have furry animals always around me, so I'm always exposed to parasites. But no, it's an excellent. Out of all the cleansers for parasites, it's by far the best because it doesn't kill the parasite. It just stops the parasite from metabolizing in you. So when they stop metabolizing anything in your system, they exit stage right. It's awesome. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You don't want a 40-inch worm dying right in the center of your abdomen, right?
No.
Hanging out.
No. The die-off can be pretty brutal.
How much money is that? What's SEC? What currency is this? The fuck is this? How much money is that?
I don't know what SEC is. Love the Astro Chads. That's a lot of fun, by the way. I've listened to one of them. It was good.
Swedish krona.
Oh, dude, you're in the money. What is that? Like $12?
It's like that's like a someone said that's $1.99.
Yeah.
No, it's I think it's point. Yeah, so 0.09. Who knows? How much is this? Math is not my strong suit.
Like right around $10, I think.
That's funny. Please send your tips in the form of kroner. It's way more way more dramatic.
Yeah, another Topher in the house. Chris Topher, send in the sec.
Thank you, man. Thanks for the sec. I love sex. Send me them all. You send me as many as you can. I'll take sex. 1,395. Damn. That's what the girl with the dragon tattoo was spending downtown.
Damn.
The kroner.
Love that movie.
Yeah. So love the Astro Chads. Thank you, man. They're gonna be coming out every Saturday. So I think we're 3 out of 12. Cancer will be this Saturday coming up. So thanks, Chris. Thanks for $13, $12, whatever it is. Appreciate it, man. Thank you. So what else? What else you want to get into?
Well, you were asking, we were just about to do my intro and then you like busted off to something else over there. So
Sorry, yeah, hang on. Someone's saying this is $125. So no matter how much it is, I'm very thankful. Here, Aldog did the math. 125. Thank you, man.
nice.
Really appreciate it.
Look at Aldog, the author. Good man.
Christopher.
Serious sports is fun too. I listened to that. That was really cool. I was happy to hear my man Tua. Speaking of Florida, my man Tua is going to show out this year. That made me happy. Pisces in the house.
Christopher, if you've got a question, I'd be more than happy to answer a question, or if you want us to talk about a topic, be more than happy to do that for you. The Christopher that just tipped.
I figured.
I'm addressing
I picked up on that.
But I was gonna say, yeah, that was just the intro. Here. I'll show people your. Go check them out, y'all.
Are you going to the website?
Yep.
Because the website's Topher HQ.
Oh, you want me to go to?
I don't know
your
what
website?
I don't know what you were showing.
I was gonna show on your YouTube right now.
Yeah, I don't
Go
really
hit 'em up,
post to
y'all.
YouTube because back in the day when I had my first podcast, they were pretty brutal with me back then. So I put everything on BitChute. I'm BioCharisma on BitChute. On my website, I have everything on topherhq.com. So and then I have all my recent building projects. Well, not all of them, but the really pretty ones I have up on there too. I've been doing a ton of construction consulting and just getting people on the right foot when it comes to what they want with their homes.
Shell yeah,
I-
man.
I build all like really unique structures. So I build dome homes, I build octagonal homes, hexagonal homes. I build a lot of sacred spaces that have sacred geometry in them, like proportional geometry. I encode phi into almost everything we do. A lot of the roofs I do are spiral roofs. Depending on what energy my client wants to bring into the building, we'll either spiral it clockwise or counterclockwise. We do a lot of really cool things.
Shell yeah, man.
Yeah.
Love this.
Yeah, that dome bedroom is awesome. That was my very first Tico dome, tropical eco dome.
So guys, just so you know, Topher here is already signed on to be the lead architect of the massive cult compound that we're rolling out here soon.
What's the core of your cult going to be? Frugivorism and all the honeys going your direction?
Yeah, fruit, but cities made of solid materials.
Oh, I can't wait, dude.
An emphasis.
Especially with all these fires, man. I mean, that's why another reason why I got into biochar wasn't just for gardening. It's like biochar is a fire remediator. So if you put the pyrolyzed carbon, you mix it in your concrete. I do a lot of construction with concrete and aircrete. It makes your building fireproof essentially. So I think that's something in the future that, especially with all these, quote unquote, wildfires and stuff, I think that's a pretty smart thing to do.
Also, I think you mentioned before a lot of the stuff you're making is hurricane proof.
Yeah.
If not more resistant than square structures.
Yeah, the domes are inherently much better with shear. So the shear generated by wind or shear that's generated by the earth moving side to side, in an earthquake situation. Monolithic structures do much, much better than just square structures. Usually your square structures are post and beam, and post and beam structures have a hard time because they have all these angles where there's no flow, and wherever there's no flow, nature just gets rid of it.
For sure, man. What's the did you see the thing I sent you today? This might be like kindergarten for you, but I sent you this thing on Instagram today, I think.
Oh yeah, so many people sent me that dome thing.
Right? The inflatable.
Yeah. That was actually, it's funny, dude, because there was a 60 minutes expose on that's ferrocement, the inflatable dome. This dude on the Barrier Islands in North Carolina in 1989 or 90 had his house blown off the Barrier Island, and the insurance company would not would not pay out. They were like, no, we're not going to pay for a new home. So he went ahead and hired this Italian architect that did this inflatable dome home. And it was like 4,000 square feet, 2-story dome home. And it was on 60 Minutes. It was amazing. And as a young man, because my dad built commercial buildings, I was like, Dad, why aren't you doing it like that? Because it was so efficient. And my dad was like, yeah, that's the way we should do it. Pneumatics. My dad loved everything with pneumatics. And so he's like, yeah, that's so much better way to build, and that shape can handle hurricanes. And what was great was it was a great case study, because the next year that island got hit by another hurricane and the dude's house was fine.
Funny comment. So, how is Florida suited for dome homes and things like this?
Florida should have nothing but dome homes because of the frequency by which, there's all the storms. Because, I grew up in Florida and I lived next to the Everglades. In the summer, we would get storms off the Everglades, coming from west to east that would be in the 60, 70 mile per hour range. It's not just big hurricanes that would come off the ocean that would hit us. The Everglades would produce very, very strong storms. And just like you were saying, like with the lightning and stuff like that in Tampa, like Florida has whenever you're surrounded by that much water, come on. There's always going to be some sort of gale force wind coming one way or another. And nothing can handle that better than curves. Like all my roofs that I do are circular. I use lancet arches in all my stuff. So dome homes do really well. The tropical eco dome would work really well in Florida.
For sure. And it even makes me think of, that when Columbus came through, or one of the conquistadors, they said the Caribbeans and Floridians were living in Moorish huts. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't the thatched palmetto style that you see later on. It was something else. And tabby was known to the natives. So let's talk about early geopolymers.
Nice.
You work with like bubble materials, or kind of foam, less dense, and then they harden.
I'm getting into that, but I went to school. I went to the Geopolymer Institute in Saint Michel, France. Like the Joseph Davidovitz, the gentleman that had coined the term geopolymer, I went to his school to learn how to make geopolymers out of bauxite clay. So I was really hot on the trail of geopolymers for a very long time.
Here, hang on. Sorry, I had to ban someone. Annoying. Lizard. Just got domed, biatch. All right, so go check them out, y'all. Biocharisma.
Topher HQ.
TopherHQ.com
is pretty. It's the best thing. I don't really post things to YouTube all that much, just because of my priors. I don't want to waste my time.
Yo, heavy hitter in the house. What's up?
Yeah, Ben.
What's up, Ben? That boy.
Yeah, so that's cool that he's in here, because the whole thing with the geopolymers is it's really the tell of the tape, man. Because whoever was doing the geopolymers, they had some very, very advanced knowledge of chemistry. because a geopolymer, for those of you out there that don't know, is a man-made stone. And so, and it's a stone that is it's alkaline. Well, it's like very close to being acidic. So it's essentially a neutral stone. And depending on what its substrate is, you can make geopolymers out of lots of different things. But there are some geopolymers that have an acidic reaction that actually binds. That's why it doesn't get weaker with time. You know, all this concrete that we make now is alkaline. And so because we live in acidic areas, the acidity of the environment overall will break it down. So the geopolymer technology is just absolutely stunning. And to think of the amount of material that would have to be moved to actually mix the geopolymers and do it correctly. What was that hotel that you were showing me in St. Augustine that I loved? The last podcast that you and I did together, we did you said it the best. They were cast bowls, like
yeah,
completely cast. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. I think that was a brilliant observation.
yeah. There's only a handful of true castles on Earth.
Yeah.
The rest are imitations. Castles, the ones that actually stand forever. This is one city block in St. Augustine. That almost looks CGI, doesn't it? It almost looks like someone made this on this is a fake movie set, right? That's one city block in St. Augustine, 1888, 1890-ish, 1900. That smokestack back there, the single smokestack over here.
Yep.
Thomas Edison built one. I don't know if that one's one of his, but the building that this is taken from had 2 towers, and it's actually more impressive than these other 2. And one held hot water, the other held cold. Or some people tell the story. Today, one holds clean water, the other holds gray water, depending on who you ask or what era. But originally, there was a steam dynamo in the back of this Edison, or attributed to Edison, silo, a steam silo that lets off steam. And today it's part of the art building of the college, but it's still there. Tall brick silo. And this thing had full electricity from the very beginning. From the very beginning. And it's made terracotta. So it's cast limestone, cement, concrete. And then it's terracotta. It's like a very iron-rich clay mixture that hardens almost to metal, almost. And here we go. And that stuff's all still original. It's all still there. If the way they make terracotta today, it's crumbly like the brick like they make today. They don't know how to finish it right to where it gets this metallic. It hardens at the end. So all that terracotta is still there. If you go to Tampa Bay, the bricks in Tampa Bay on the ground polish. They polish themselves from getting driven on.
Yes.
They don't crumble. They don't crack. Okay, they're almost more metal than clay or whatever else would be in there. They're like baked iron ingots. It's crazy. And the bricks were so superior back then. And the terracotta, the fine work, the fine detail on all these buildings is still there from almost 150 years ago.
I bet you we just call it terracotta now, but it was more of like a geopolymer back when they were doing it originally. Because that's why I went to school. That's why I went to the Geopolymer Institute, was I had all this red clay, and red clay is bauxite, and it's bauxite, which is aluminum silicate and iron oxide. and you can make brick out of that by firing it. And so depending on how they were firing things would give you different qualities. The level of iron oxide in it. Blood could make the iron. That's definitely something we've thought about. And then also the mixing of like having a white geopolymer, thing that's covered by this red material that as it heats up, is emitting the far infrared band of electricity, that wavelength. I bet you that added to the actual energy production of the buildings. I would love to see a cutaway with what type of wires they ran. Like if they had a steam dynamo, like what type of, like, they didn't have Romex back then. Like what wires were they actually running to the rooms? Like what was the actual, did they use conduit? Like what did they do? Because if these walls are solid, like give me a break. Like how did they do it back then?
Here, I was just queuing up some more pictures as you were talking. Here from my recent trip to St. Augustine. Took a lot of HD footage, and I can show you some of the examples, what I mean, of the fine, I don't know what you'd call them, embellishments, the little fine details on some of these buildings. Here, you can't see that. Okay, you can see this. Nice. Okay. This is St. Augustine. I've showed this on one live stream before, but I don't think we talked about the material. We just talked about the size. With you, I want us to theorize.
Okay.
Where the fuck did this block come from? This is Giza level. You're gonna see. This is St. Augustine right by the bridge. That one right there at the end.
Huge.
This extends into the ground at least 3 feet. You'd have to dig out a ton of mud to see. It's at least 3 feet down into the earth, the mud, the sand.
And they built around it. They built around it and on top of it. So no one else is going to move it in modern day, right?
To me, it almost looks like it's a sandbag, like a hardened sandbag, like a giant flattened sandbag, or it's been eroded so much where the seams are that it looks like it's rounded like a sandbag, which would show great antiquity. But I'm going to show you some scale. I think I got one with my buddy standing. Even it's kind of fisheye, you can't tell, but it's at least 10 feet long. And
that's huge.
That's right there. This is where they had the old harbor. This is the old dock. Just to come up right there. That's a solid something of limestone. Whether they shaped that, whether that's the bedrock they carved everything out away from and just left these, it looks like they're in a line, but it looks like they're floating, like they were placed there. I don't think that's the bedrock carved down. They're there. They're huge. They're covered by the water for most of the day. This was very, very low tide right here that we can see them. So
those do look like they're casing stones put together. I bet you there was a much larger. Well, I don't know, because you see how they're setting together. That looks very intentional, doesn't it?
It is, yeah, for sure. So, but here we were talking about the terracotta. Look at this fucking work.
Wow.
Look, and this is huge. This isn't like a little doorway. This is huge. I think these little pillars are like 6 feet. I don't even think I'm as tall as these, the tallest of these pillars.
Uh-huh.
I'll see if I've got someone standing in front, but look at the design, the fine detail.
That is stunning.
And how many bricks are missing? How many bricks have chipped away
None.
that you can see? It's perfect. It's almost perfect. Whereas anyone who's seen, I've seen 1920s, 1950s brick houses that are just crumbling.
Yeah.
Crumbling. And this thing is holding together.
Well, those columns don't look like brick, though. Those columns, if
You're right.
they're
probably
making it look like brick. Yeah.
You're right. They're probably made to look like brick.
Yeah, it's the arches are definitely brick. And I'm looking at that concrete behind. Did you go up there? Did you actually touch that?
I think those are bricks fitted very tight. I could be wrong, but that's definitely cast concrete in the middle.
Yeah.
And from what I could tell, I think it was brick, because if not, it would just be a terracotta facade over.
What was
concrete.
that building? What is that building?
This is Grace United. Wait, is this Grace United? This is Grace United Methodist Church. That one. Flagler. That's a Flagler building. Here. It's this one. No,
Wow.
not that one. No, it's not that one. This is the Ponce de Leon Hotel. This is the building that the picture was taken from that we were looking at earlier. You see this?
Oh,
Copper
nice.
Antiquitech up at the top. It was even fancier before. It had this whole like Jimmy Neutron looking thing. Let's look at this some more of. This is a tall tower. This is the Hotel Alcazar. It's so high. It's so high up there. No one can even get up that high to like observe the beauty.
That is amazing how ornate that is.
Yeah. And Ponce de Leon Hotel. This is from the inside, from the courtyard. All the red you see is terracotta for the most part. It might be a little brick, but I think it's mostly all terracotta. And then here's real up close at some of this stuff. And you can see that almost nothing's chipping away. It's
right.
Solid. And there's lots of fish on the fountains. Got your cherubims. Got also what I noticed was you got your little swastikas here.
Yeah. As the wheel turns.
Here's a good shot. This is ground level. You can walk right up to this. So ornate. It's like
stunning.
This is the most Harry Potter college. Anyone I've taken there says, "Oh my God, this is like Hogwarts. This is like the real Hogwarts." It's so lush around it, and so ornate. It feels magical.
St. Augustine used to be one of my favorite places in the world to go.
What happened?
I haven't been back there since I was a little kid.
Oh.
We would take field trips there, and every time I was there, I thought it was magical.
See, I think you can see that's brick on the inner layer.
Yeah, they made the arches. The arches are definitely brick.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like with the terracotta facade outside the arches, they probably lined it,
Mm-hmm.
Because it's obviously that they could actually indent and mark. And I mean, just God, it's so ornate. They had to have castings, negatives to do that. That's beautiful.
Here's anyone speak a little Latin?
That's the geopolymer recipe right there. A little bit of
So,
bauxite, a little bit of seashells, some nature.
well, dude, have I shown you this? Shit, I'm gonna try and find it now. So you want to talk about recipes getting woven into the building or
Yes, please.
alchemical messages?
I want to learn.
I don't want to bore anyone with this, but does anyone know the chemical symbol or the molecular structure of boron? Boron, right? Well, it's a triskelion, or sorry, it's a triacrian. It's a triacrian, the three legs, the Medusa, the Sicily symbol.
Ah,
Well, believe it or not, that is something used in binding in cement,
yeah,
concrete, and boric acid.
yeah. We use borax. Yeah, that was one of the recipes, especially in natural cement and Roman cement.
Dude, this is a fucking gravy mine right here. Okay. I found this out like a year ago on a live stream with Juan. In the middle of the live stream, we realized this because someone said, who said it? Someone said that looks like the symbol for boric acid. A commenter, I don't know, someone. And dude, I've been floored ever since whenever I think about this. And guys, I didn't know we were going to be talking about this hotel, even though I put it on the thumbnail, right? and I called it the Riz Carlton.
Right.
The Riz is, do you know what Riz is, Topher?
No.
So Riz is like this new slang everyone's saying. It means charisma.
Oh shit! What?
Swag. So it's right up your alley. It's like the new swag, the new to be
All
hip
right.
is to have Riz, is to like get girls and be like an Andrew Tate type dude. Have charisma, like a.
That's not real charisma. He's a fag.
Okay, well, you get it.
I get it.
It's a theme nonetheless, and I want to show you a chair. Ponce de Leon. So I called this hotel the Riz Carlton.
That's awesome.
It's the superstructure megalith. It's a monolithic structure that it's one of the Earth's only monolithic buildings. Like this is a monolithic structure. All of these, they're a single cast, essentially. Multiple pores, like over time, but a single cast. There's they binded them with ice, or not binded, but they like structured them. They with railroad ties instead of rebar. It's railroad ties on the inside of this, is what they say.
Wow, that makes sense. I was thinking, because I was like, those walls are really thick. So that makes sense that they use railroad ties. Railroad ties are 8 inches by 8 inches by 10 feet. I know. And I just bought a ton of them.
Flagler had plenty of railroad materials, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But about boric acid, I don't know. I don't even know how to find this chair. Ponce de Leon Hotel. Let's see if that'll come up. There's a chair in the Ponce de Leon Hotel. It's called a courting chair, right? And a courting chair is basically, it's a 3-sided chair. Come on, I'm doing my best. Doing my best to find it.
You do.
It'll be worth it when I find it. Sorry. There's a chair that's 3-sided. So I was in there. I didn't see it. We took a tour, but it was blocked off. They were renovating one part of the building. And somewhere in this building is a chair that is 3-sided. Fuck, I'm just gonna have to show you. Boom. Okay, we're in. We're solid. Here we
Nice.
are. We're coming, everyone. Here it comes.
Dude, that's total pimp swag right there. Imagine that. You're just lounging two of your favorites.
2 honeys at the same time, right? They call that the flagler.
Nothing
But,
boring about that.
So what this courting chair is a man and a woman. This is all very alchemical to me. All the terminology in the story behind this chair is that it's a courting chair. So a man who's courting a woman, bachelorette, a bachelor, whatever, single people getting together would need, in Victorian times, would need a chaperone present. Single people didn't just frolic around together, right? You needed a representative of the family or the businesses they were associated with. There was a chaperone or a friend. And this chair allegedly is positioned so that one person can sit and watch over the other two. But if you actually look at this chair, no one can see anyone. You have to all they would all have to be doing this in order to be in a conversation with each other, right? You could actually, there's other ways to make a 3-sided seat.
Yeah,
So
they would all be turning right.
they're actually all facing away from each other. So no one's receiving any advantage from this setup. That is until we start looking around. This symbol is called the triacrian. Triacrian. 3, right? But then acria goes back to Aquarius, which means Aquarius rules the legs. So 3 legs. Aquarius became acria, right? So the 3-leg symbol, this is associated with
Is that
Medusa.
Medusa?
Yes, this is Medusa's symbol. This is the symbol of Sicily, too. Sicily has the 3 legs. It's also the Isle of Man, if I'm not mistaken, uses this symbol. But the triacrian. So you'll find different variations, ancient times, all over the place.
That triacrian, he's wearing the Hermes shoes.
Yep. That's where you get the Nike swish, guys, by the way. So there it is. This is a Triskelion. So different than a triacrian, but almost sharing, obviously in the same theme, but it has a different application. This is more Celtic. You find it all over different places, but associated with the Celts, Druids, triacrians all over the place. That's the Sicily flag, I think.
So what's Medusa's connection to boron?
Well, here. Well, Medusa, when everything she saw turned to stone, did it not instantly?
Exactly.
Fucking boom, dude. Now,
So check this out, dude. Because have you checked out Stellium 7 yet? Mike Wilkerson.
Yeah. I'm talking. Yeah, we're gearing up to do a show together soon.
Great. So instant petrification because of plasma. So we talked about this. Is like we hypothesized because he has all this building architecture that in Europe that he was showing me pictures of, where it's obvious it was wood at one point that was petrified instantly into stone. So we were surmising that the Medusa, because her head, like her snake head or whatever, could have been symbolizing plasma. And it's kind of interesting because in a lot of the geopolymers, here's a little bit of gravy for you with geopolymers. geopolymers, unlike concrete, do need heat to set.
Mm.
So there's all this really cool stuff with like, how do they generate the heat at the Giza pyramid? How do they generate the heat here? Let's say this was a geopolymer. Well, earlier you brought up the whole thing with the terracotta. If the terracotta, like, you know how if you put dissimilar metals together, it creates a current?
Mm-hmm.
What happens if you put dissimilar geopolymers together?
Mm. And one's iron based and the other one's shell based.
Exactly. One would be calcium based, the other one would be iron based. I bet you that you could derive a current from that. And part of this whole alchemy in this was that you've seen at the top of these buildings, they were definitely, harvesting static electricity. They were definitely bringing in electricity at enormous amounts. I wonder if at some way they actually heated the geopolymer with electricity to get it to set correctly.
Keep talking.
So my point is like Joseph Davidovich, he was saying that the casing stones of the pyramids were black because of thermal gain. And so you had these black casing stones that would heat up. When you look at the cross section of these pyramids, they were actually fluted like a big oven. So as they were building and going up, they would heat the inside with fire, and then they would heat the outside with thermal gain with dark stones, right? And all that would give you enough heat for the geopolymer to set. And so I'm wondering if in St. Augustine and other areas where they use this technology, they just did some sort of resistive heating. Because just like if you put two different metals together, you get a charge, you get a differential. Maybe there's something with the geopolymers with that, and then they're inducing the spark of it with, Medusa there has to be something with Medusa that has to do with electricity.
Yes. Now, let's throw one more thing into this. Plasma events would have been tracked astrologically.
Definitely.
And perhaps that would have been the only way to see them coming. The Ponce de Leon Hotel is not only, and by the way, they have dragon spouts. So here, okay, let's do one. Okay. Gravy overload. One thing at a time. We've got the symbol. We're going to link it to Medusa, but I want to show you why this symbol is so important. Why the stone matters. Here, let's jump over to this other tab. One thing at a time. Because this is mind-blowing, guys. This is... Topher, you and I might have to work together on a production video that I'm putting together about flag prints in Augustine. And you might have to fill in the whole gap with the geopolymer.
Okay.
That, if you got time. We'll talk about that soon. But boric acid is what we've been talking about a little bit. We were just showing the chair, okay? This is how alchemists work, guys. In the 1500s, 1700s, they were making paintings to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Where, oh, she's wearing a rose. She's got a turtle on her necklace. She's got a bird's nest in her hair. There's a fish on the wall. Everything in these old Renaissance paintings showed something alchemically. And the same way you can encode lyrics in a song to have a second meaning, a painting of a beautiful woman or of a landscape can have a second meaning. Only that is only perceivable to the initiated, those who understand the symbolism. Well, likewise, when you hear all this courting stuff, you hear about man, woman, chaperone, masculine, feminine, a binding agent, bonding agent, some agent catalyst between the two, whatever the dynamic here is. You have a positive, a negative, an in-between, a go-between, a messenger, whatever. You have a trinity being represented in this. To me, this goes back to the chemical wedding, because the courtship doesn't represent two people. It represents the union of chemicals or whatever the building is made out of. You know, earlier Topher said, is the secret hidden in the carving on the outside? No, but it is hidden on the, hey, mister, on the inside, on the couch. And the symbolism of the courtship only substantiates this, that there's a chemical layer to this. So when we look at boric acid, we find the triacrian, the trinacrian, however you say it. There's variations. Look at this. It doesn't get more perfect than that.
It doesn't.
And this is not just, we didn't just go, hey, what's the closest looking molecule that looks like that chair over there, huh? What happened is I started looking. Someone told us it's boric acid. And then we come to find out, it's that they actually did use it for binding concrete.
Dude, I will tell you, the very first natural concrete I ever made, I sourced pozzolanic ash. Pozzolan stands for the volcano that was in Italy that would go off during Roman times, and they would grab the fly ash from that, and they found that it was a very good binder. So they just call all ash from volcanoes pozzolanic ash, but let's just say volcanic ash. Volcanic ash, silica from sand, calcium bentonite clay, boric acid, and bauxite clay. And that was my mix. And it hardened into stone, like it's freaking stone.
Here, let's find. It's gonna say it somewhere in here. I mean, what Christopher just told you should be proof enough, but you know, we don't need Wikipedia to tell us. But I promise you, Google search it, boric acid or other things made with boron, you're gonna see used in building materials, hardening agents, binding agents, and there's a little lizard inside. Why that matters. I know this is boring, guys. Just stay with me. Okay, there we go. The other big boom with this is that the Ponce de Leon Hotel and all those hotels were advertised as fireproof. Fireproof. So yes, concrete is typically, fireproof, but these were considered extra fireproof. And boric acid might have had a lot to do with that, because let's look back up here. Flame retardant. So not only is these it's a castle. You want your castle to be fireproof. Like I said.
You also, you brought up they use railroad ties. Railroad ties are wood. So it said in that what you were pulled up there before, it's a curing agent for wood. So I bet you they had, thousands and thousands of gallons of boric acid to dip the 8-inch by 8-inch by 10-foot pieces of wood to cure the railroad ties. And then after the railroad ties were seasoned, they used them in the actual construction of the building.
Right. So just to reiterate, you guys see this? Boric acid. Now we go back to the symbol, same symbol.
I love that couch. I want it.
Pretty trippy, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. 3 legs, the couch, the boric acid, the chemical, the secret ingredient to the chemical mixture of the St. Augustine, tabby limestone, coquina cement seems to be boric acid. We're gonna have to do some testing on that, but I think they encoded the secret in the furniture of the place. To me, it's too compelling to deny.
What is there anything else with what I'm talking about with the Medusa plasma head?
Yeah, so you've got the two at each of those towers. Let's not forget, this building was fireproof. It's monolithic, so it turned to stone suddenly. But it also was steam power from the get-go. From the very beginning, it had the Edison electric system. And I believe those two things up at the top. Here, I have a good picture of that. Let's see if I got a picture of that. Boom, perfect. Can you see that?
It's so beautiful.
Can you see it? Yeah, perfect. You can see it. This is on the roof of the Ponce de Leon Hotel. This is like 1890, right?
Do people you have to understand what goes into something like this. It is extraordinary.
Mm-hmm. It looks empty. It looked empty back then. It looks just as empty today, and it looked old then, but it looks brand new today. Hey, what are you doing?
I'm surprised they didn't make it like an insane asylum or some BS like that.
It's too beautiful. Flagler was too powerful, too wealthy. He loved it. Who knows? He either built it himself with secret, forgotten techniques that he wouldn't share, or it was there and he claimed it. Was just the first one to build the railroad out to it. Therefore, who knows? But Franklin W. Smith was the guy down the street who built the Villa Zoreda, which allegedly is where they got the inspiration for the technique, the limestone geopolymer. Franklin Smith allegedly learned from the natives. They had a form of tabby that they would make with
Could you define tabby? You've said that a couple times. I don't know what that is.
So tabby is shell-based concrete cement.
Mm-hmm.
It's
so it's coquina. That's what you call coquina?
It's not all. So coquina is unique to the Northeast Florida region, from like north, way north of Palm Beach, like Vero Beach, up to the Georgia border. You'll find coquina. Coquina is supposed to be unique to Northeast St. Augustine area. So they have a ton of this one type of shell. Down here, you don't get the coquina as much. Now, there's parts. It's a type of shell, a cockerel, I think is what they call it. Cockerel is where you get coquina. I could be wrong on that, but it's whatever. I forgot what I was gonna say. But
I was asking about tabby. Like,
yes, okay. So tabby is a colonial thing that is almost the same as this, except they don't grind it to a this is also unique because if you look at the grain in this, they ground all the material to like a perfect sized grain where you can't really make out shells anymore.
Right.
But it's not crummy. You know what I mean? Sometimes so tabby would use whole shells. That's kind of what makes it unique. And it's not restricted to coquina. Tabby is shell-based. It can be rock, gravel, but shell-based with shell lime is the main binding agent. I don't know how it works, but it's all shell-based. They cook shell to make cook shells to get a powder crushed up. They wet that. That's kind of like the binding agent. And then they take crushed up shell, larger shell, gravel, mix it up. And that is, here, let's look at some tabby. We'll look at tabby in a sec. I want to zoom up here, and I pulled this one up because you can see what was at the top originally.
So they were definitely inducing a current through static electricity.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's what this.
And look, you can even see the spirals on the hexagon that's going up, like the 6 columns that are going up. So they have the spiral relief on the outside, and they have another 6 straight poles. I bet you that's the positive and the negative. Dude, just there's no one that could make that today. The intricacy of that. Like, let me rephrase. Nobody that could make it on a limited budget. Like, if you had an unlimited budget,
out in the middle of the woods,
dude,
with like one road.
Dude, the proportions of that are so perfect.
Yep.
Just that dome, like in the sphere. Who's stamping the spheres for them?
Yeah, who's ever seen the tile work today?
No, you don't do barrel tile on a dome. You don't do that.
Yeah. Right.
Oh my goodness. That's mastery. That is a level of mastery. I am envious of that. That is out of this world.
Here's the Thomas Edison designed this electric clock in one of the largest blocks of white onyx known to man ever. They say it's the largest in the Western Hemisphere. Notice that Edison used 4 numeral ones rather than the usual IV for the number 4. That's not that uncommon, but there is a little bit of like a code to be interpreted there. Speaking of plasma, what is plasma often represented by? Dragons?
Dragon.
Okay, well, what did we have here? This is not a downspout. Mr. Flagler's friend was Thomas Edison. The Edison Electric Company powered the building with steam, heat, and 4,000 electric lights, making the hotel one of the nation's first electrified buildings. It was actually probably the second. It was definitely the second hotel. Number 1 was the Tampa Bay Hotel in Tampa Bay plant, Flagler's competitor. They were built within two years of each other, not even. This dragon had a red light bulb in it, making it appear, and there's dragons all around the courtyard. It's not just one. Making it appear as if it were breathing fire. There were several around the courtyard. Okay, well, there they said. Must have been an exciting sight for the guests, but Mr. Flagler had to hire additional staff to turn on and off the light switches in the rooms because the guests were afraid of electricity and thought they might get shocked. Let's see what else. Tiffany glass windows.
Are you kidding me?
The collection is reputed to be the largest private collection of Louis Comfort Tiffany glass in its original location in the world. No one will put a price tag on them. They just say they are priceless. And then I mentioned the whole thing's orientated to astrology. On the outside in the courtyard, right here.
Mm-hmm.
This is 1880s. This is what it still looks like today. 1890s, 1880s. Look how good the photography was. Fucking forget the architecture. Look at the photography.
Yeah.
Then you see a picture from the fucking 60s or 70s. You can't even see your dad's face in it. It's so grainy. And then they're taking real estate level. This is like what a real estate photographer would come back with today, minus the black and white. The quality is astounding in these pictures from the late 1800s. This guy's still dressed for the Civil War, and they're taking pictures like this. So crisp. And this is a copy of the copy. Imagine if you had the real picture.
Right.
How could the cameras were fucking amazing. This is what it looks like today. And if you see this fountain, this is a functioning sundial. I kid you not. There's 12 frogs tell you the hours. The 4 turtles tell you the quarters of the day and the seasons, if I'm not mistaken. And there's a certain amount of bands on this rod up the middle. I think there's 16.
Those are chevrons.
16. There's 16. You want to talk about electricity and electromagnetism?
Yeah.
You're 16. What was it? What was Ed Leeds Scownin going on and on and on about at the Coral Castle? Sweet 16.
Yeah.
He had 16 steps on his castle. There's 16 everything.
There's 16 chevrons there.
That's what I mean. There's 16 bands on this kind of spinal cord chevrons around this pole. There's 16. Count them with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. That's your sweet 16, folks. And it's this astrological totem right in the middle. It's almost got a fucking light bulb on.
Look at that. That's a crystal.
Top of it.
You think that's a... Oh, you're right. Those are little light bulbs. I wonder, God, they were not messing around.
Right. You've got your zodiac, your, what's it called? Sundial in the courtyard. Then we go inside. That's what it looks like today.
There's a ratio that we're there. There were 4. It's 1 to 3 to 4. We're missing the 2 with the chevrons. So if you have 16, 12, 4, where was the 8? You know what I'm saying? On that water? Because if this whole thing's encoding alchemy, I'm wondering, because I'm always looking at ratios. You have the 12 frogs, you have the 4 turtles.
Let's look at the heads at the top, around the top, the lion spitting water at the top. Let's zoom in on those. How many do we think can be there? 1, 2, 3. 6, probably more than 8.
Yeah.
More than 8 for sure. How about this? One frog has his hand on his knee. The other frog has his hand up in the air. And these represent halves of the day. Hello, mister. Hello, mister.
Wow.
Okay. Moving on. Let's go back to, you mentioned perfection, right? Like mastery.
Mm-hmm.
The rotunda floor is done in hand-placed mosaic. It was one of the last things that was being finished up before the hotel opening, and Mr. Flagler and an assistant were admiring what had been done. When the assistant made the comment, it was perfect. Shh. It was perfect. Mr. Flagler took offense to that, saying, "Only God is perfect." He had some strange conceptions about God. This is the same guy who gave land across from this building, adjacent to it, away for free to a church and said, build a church. It's for free. You know, and I think he even paid for most of the church. But you know what his only condition was? And the church is still there. It's called Ancient Church, Ancient City Church. His only condition was no bell tower. You can't have a bell. You can have a tower, but you can't have a bell. So why didn't he want someone else ringing a bell nearby? Here,
mess up
So-
his harmonics.
I think so. I think so. He said, only God is perfect. He then advised the tile layers to make a mistake so it would not be perfect. Can you find it? So he told the tile makers to make mistakes on purpose in the tile so that it wouldn't be too perfect. Because like you said, the craftsmanship, we haven't even looked at the wood too. Okay. You know what people say about the wood? I've had a carpenter. Oh,
Look at that.
sweet heavens. I've had a carpenter tell me they've done fine carpentry their whole life. And this building took less than 2 years to make.
No, that's a lie.
Whole thing took, that's a fact according to them.
That's a lie.
2 years to make top to bottom. They cast it. They got all the wood in. They got all the fine goods and furniture. And it was ready for business within 2 years of breaking ground. Okay? This guy told me that he's worked on people's houses for 2 years doing woodwork in an office.
Yes.
Doing office pieces of fine carpentry, you know, tailor made to one house, one part of the house. That can take 2 years with a good carpenter spending his time making it look like this. And they're telling us that this was all thrown up within the 2 years
They're lying.
that they also cast everything and the electric was going in. Everyone was working on top of each other. Not to mention
There's no way.
Not to mention Flagler was building every other building in town in the same style, at the same rate, in the same speed, in the same Moorish style.
This is a reclaimed building. Do you have pictures of it going up stage, like step by step?
There's not step by step. There's a single one where they're about 3/4 of the way done. And you can see beams sticking up, but it's vanilla skied to hell. Let's see if we can find it.
I love that. You know, they do these architectural feats. It's only the look at no. Let's stop right there. Stop right there.
Okay.
That right there. Like that. The level of intricacy just in that is so astounding. And I do domes and arches, by the way, everyone. Like, this is part of my shtick. Like, I'm not talking out of my ass here.
Right.
Like, the level, that alone is at least 2 years with a dozen master carpenters that already have all the materials already finish coming in and just putting it and doing the geometry of that. That is just exceptional.
Here I want to show I've got some great HD footage from the inside.
I want to see the picture of it in construction where you said with the vanilla sky.
Yes.
Dude, look at that. That's that Tiffany glass in those arches.
That's like the ballroom cafeteria. That's the cafeteria right now of the university. And there's the 12 signs of the zodiac on the roof of this room.
What university is this?
Flagler College. It's like a bunch of Christians and surfers go there. And it's like bad. If you have bad grades, you can get in, from what I've heard.
Oh, you just pay to get in?
Yeah. And the Ritz-Carlton. So here, let me find this. Oops. Okay. Here I've got. So you get this one where that looks done to me minus the towers.
That's done. They're
That's
just
done.
they're putting a facade on the outside.
And then let's see. Look at this one. They're building the courtyard. That's done. The towers are there. You can see the towers too in the back. There's one other. There's literally only one other photo, and it's the one where it looks like they're actually getting work done. It's taken from a different elevation. You can see carts pulled up. Let me pull this up. And granted, this building doesn't have to be ancient. I think they're using ancient methods nonetheless. But this would show, I think, the dome that they would lift up on top of it later, the framework, and fill it in. But, you know, first 3 stories are completely done right here. You've got a blank sky, but at least you can see how they're getting the materials up there. You can see railroad ties. You can see things like this. So this is the only compelling photo that exists. The other 2 are don't show anything to me. But this is the only photo that you would have standing in your way to convince someone this is older than they tell us. And this photo actually looks very grainy, whereas when it's done, the pictures are perfect. You know, it's perfect photography. You're telling me in 5 years the cameras got so much better from then to then? But
I'm just looking at the scaffolding, how they were doing this scaffolding with the cross bracing.
so that's all the work you'll ever see getting done on this. But the other 2 pictures show the bulk of the structure already in place. And even that one, you can see the first 3 stories are all around the hotel, are already constructed. But
that's just a spectacular building.
and even if it was built in the late 1880s, the biggest conspiracy we have here is, why don't we keep building like that? Why do only 2 people, 3 people know the construction method? You know this? You can go look up on the Wikipedia. Franklin W. Smith, the guy who knew this method, came, and the deal was he would come and he wouldn't disclose his exact methods. He would show up and taught the builders a certain things they could replicate, so that he gave them some parts of the process so they could do the bulk of the work. But he would show up. He would show up and give them his secret mixture, or the recipe, or the instructions to make the recipe that they would use to make these buildings. So the original guy was his condition was that he would be involved throughout the whole thing. They'd split the money on these hotels after, because that's how valuable this knowledge was that this guy had to build this stone. So even if it was built late in the 1880s, Florida's been robbed of this building style. We can be building hurricane-proof castles that will last 150 years minimum. And not only that, after 150 years, they'll still look brand new. And you can fill them with hundreds of people day in and day out. That's a university. Okay, there's castles, there's Victorian buildings in England today that they won't let people into because they'll crumble, because they want to preserve them. Because if you let 10 people in, the thing will fall apart. this university, the Ritz-Carlton of Florida, right?
Mhm.
The Ponce de Leon Hotel University, Flagler University, is filled with like 500 people at any given time, if
Mhm.
not more. It's the dorms for the freshmen. They have classes. It's inside. It's like the administration building of the church of the university. There's like a restaurant. There's a cafeteria. It's filled with hundreds and hundreds of people. Tons of stuff. And it's still in that good condition. Everyone's stomping on it, walking up and down stairs, and that thing is still A-okay. It looks brand new.
Yeah, and we all know how college kids are. They're roughhousing in there. It's kind of interesting. At my university at Michigan State, they had some like crazy, beautiful old dorms that were built in the 1800s, and like nothing at that level, but still ornate, like very, very nice. And I always wondered because it was like, what is it? Why did they make this so nice? As for like a university, is very interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, the planned obsolescence thing is a real thing. Yeah, no money in long-term construction. That's
Mhm.
true.
The housing market, housing finance behind the housing market, top to bottom, it's predatory. It's um, an industry of scavengers, right?
Mm.
The mortgage is a death gauge. You know, how long is this person going to die before the bank, gets the house back, or will they pay it off? Or, it's a gauge of death. It's a clock. It's a meter. And also here, thank you for the $5, Matt Moon. Thank you. Here, Chungus 500. This is my brother. My brother tipped us a
Chung
lot.
500 to your brother?
Yeah, we should talk about this. But blah blah blah. We talked about the Ritz-Carlton enough. I've talked about that on lots of channels. But
Lots of pods.
Lots of pods, yeah. Let's get into Victor Schauberger. How is what he was getting into? My brother, Professor Longo, was giving me a rundown of some of his inventions and stuff like that, and how he had a shakedown from the government, something like that.
He had a few. Yeah, he was getting shook down left and right. Well, Victor Schauberger, he was the youngest Schauberger in a family line of foresters in the Forest of Austria. And he was not classically trained or educated. And he actually laughed at people. He laughed at his brother that attended university, because he felt like the only way that you could ever really know something was through direct epiphany. So he, very much like Tesla, would go into these experiments where he could separate his consciousness and let his consciousness be whatever it was he was trying to explore. And so he was an avid lover of all things dealing with water. He saw water as the medium of all life, which is kind of obvious.
Can I interject here?
Yeah.
My brother also did some digging, and he is a Cancer, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, well, hey, there you go.
Water pumps, yeah. But continue.
And that's probably why he got so taken advantage of, because the majority of the cancers I know get pretty beat up by shysters. But he essentially figured out that all fluids, air is a fluid, water is a fluid. Fluids like to move in a vorticular pattern, and he made devices that would create very specific pressure mediations by vortexing fluids. and he found that he could get levitational effects from that. And at the same time, just so you guys have context, he was at a time where the whole notion of relativity was starting to be foisted, especially in the Americas, on people. And he thought Einstein was a complete crackpot. And he wasn't down with it at all. He didn't believe in relativity. I never read anything with what he said about special relativity, but pretty much everybody in Europe thought Einstein was an idiot, because he was. And he made inventions that he would essentially mimic nature. He was very big into biomimicry. He understood phi probably deeper than phi, which is the golden ratio, which is the incommensurate geometry in water. He understood and designed all these devices with these phi ratios in place. And he would spin them up and he would get over unity effects, which means more energy was being produced from these units than what was going into it. So he drew the attention of the Nazis, the Third Reich, that wanted to be the Fourth Reich. And he drew the ire of Hitler, because he told Hitler, with the way the Nazis were treating the water in Germany, he was a huge lover of the Rhine River in Germany, and he was appalled that the Nazis were straightening it out for their U-boats. And he essentially, gave Hitler a bitch snap and, said, dude, you straightened out my Rhine River. You want to be a Reich? A Reich means 1,000-year reign. You guys won't last 10 years. And that ended up being pretty prophetic. And so he, under duress, he built devices for the Nazis, which a lot of people think were what we call a Foo Fighter, because in the early 30s, the Verberainer, what you see on the right there, that thing would glow when it would spin up, and it would glow, and all the electromagnetics around it would cop out, and that's exactly what the B-1 and the B-2 bombers would experience from the Allies, because these things would fly up from the ground that were glowing. And when they would come close to the planes would just lose all communication and would lose their electronics if they were in close proximity to the actual, if they were in close proximity to the Foo Fighter. So he made all these. He's actually, I'm of the mind that he's responsible for all of the cheap flight that we can do today. Like all these plane engines where the engine is propped out, the jet plane engine is propped out way out in front of the engine. They're not flying by the way we're told that they're flying. He had these designs back in the 30s of what we call a turboprop now, but it's all these different layers of perforated, I guess you would say, concentric cylinders, that as each one spins, they put a pressure gradient against the next, against the next, against the next. And you spin them up enough, and then you end up having propulsion very efficiently. And yeah, and if you look at a lot of the cross cuts of jet engines now, they look like eggs. And he was a huge fan of the egg. He thought the egg shape was the perfect marriage between the feminine, which is the hemisphere of the egg, the part that looks like half a sphere, and then the pointy tip of the egg, which is the lancet arch, which encodes phi. He saw the egg as the perfect shape and marriage between male and female. He was just a man way beyond his years, and he was brutalized as a cancer. He got taken advantage of by the Nazis. He got brought over to America right before he died, and he was aghast with like these different business people wanted to invest in his. I think they actually stole it. Like, my opinion is our commercial aviation is all based off of Victor Schauberger's designs. But yeah, that's just a really brief overview of him. I can go, if anybody has a specific question into one of his designs, I could wax rhapsodic about that. You're muted.
Sorry. Are you cool to take some callers?
Sure.
Cool. I'll put the link out, guys. If you have a question, a topic, something you want to ask Topher, please call in. Here. But here, construction management, 1999. My vision is that we, capital W, I like that. We will be building some sacred geomancy structures and communities together in this lifetime. We have access to the knowledge, and enough like-minded people can crowdfund, etc. Can crowdfund. I think he meant crowdfund, I think. But for sure, man. Thanks, construction management, for the 1999. So here, I'm going to put out the link if whoever wants to call in. If we got Rube Star, I wouldn't mind seeing Rube tonight. But
Rubes.
If whoever wants to call in, you got a topic, question about anything, but
he was a deep hermeticist. You know, his 100 questions for science. I forget when he actually published them. I think there was like, you know, you look up, you know, Schauberger 100 questions for science. I mean, that was like my first foray into really questioning everything I was taught about space, because he was just asking these very basic questions that are irrefutable. Like, if you have any logic in your mind, you can't refute what he was asking. Like, one of the questions he asked, he's like, if you say the sun is the source of heat, why is it when I'm at the top of a mountain, I'm colder even though I'm closer to the sun?
Mm-hmm.
You know, he just asks these great questions, and this is what he was a self-proclaimed hermeticist. Like, he didn't mess around.
yeah, here, let's look at some of these. I mean, these look like some pretty gnarly flat earth truths, in my opinion, some of them.
Yeah, definitely.
What serves the sun as a carrier of light and heat, if, in the view of our learned scientists, space is a vacuum?
That first question, wrecked.
Obliterated. You know, Big Bang, heliocentrism, obliterated with that alone. Why is the light and heat in the tropics more diffuse, and at the poles the sun's light more intense and its radiant heat less? I would say, but its radiant heat less. Why is the sun's light more intense at the poles, but its radiant heat less?
Mm-hmm.
So it's brighter, you know, towards the poles, but
Yes.
the heat, it's colder. Whereas the sun almost has a dimmed effect in the tropics,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of tree cover, but it's way hotter. So you get a yellower sun, if that makes sense. I don't know if it's darker, but it's almost like you get more of a heat lamp effect, like an orange light, like an orange ray in the tropics. Would you agree? Whereas you go up to like New Hampshire or Ireland, the air is white. I don't know how else to describe it, but the air is thinner, lighter, more pastel in does that make sense? Whereas the tropics, there seems to be like a yellower ray, like a heat lamp, like you'd expect, where there's more heat coming off.
I think it's indicative of like our chakras. So like when you get towards the equator, they shouldn't call the equator the equator. The equator should be called the root in either direction. And so you're closer to the red wavelength. And then as you go towards the center, as you go toward up the ladder towards like the, you know, Mount Meru, the center, the whatever is, you know, giving the white magnetic light to the pole star, that's the highest chakra.
Mm-hmm.
Because you technically have people that are more, you know, let's just say visceral, the closer you get to the equator.
Why is water at the poles warmer at the bottom? Why is the sunlit surface so icily cold? Why doesn't the warmer, lighter bottom water of the sea rise upwards? Why are water temperatures at the equator so warm? Why is it that it gets colder with increasing depth? And why does it get warmer again below the boundary layer of +4 Celsius? And why does life begin there anew? Why do the magnetic lines of force run from south to north? And why does the earth rotate from west to east? Why does a top stand upright when it is spun from the side? I think he's really honing in on one issue, right? I wanted to go back to this quote, though. Such a good quote. Really good quote. I didn't know it existed till today. I just saw it. Victor Schauberger. The majority believes that everything hard to comprehend must be very profound. This is incorrect. What is hard to understand is what is immature, unclear, and often false. The highest wisdom is simple and passes through the brain directly into the heart.
So true. So true.
Yep. Isn't it always the Neil deGrasse Tyson types who are guilty of the most pretense, saying, oh, well, you know, the academics have sorted this out, and, you know, we don't need to explain all the fine details to you, but, you know, I'll put it plainly, we're on a pear, or we're potato shaped, or, you know, whatever. That's exactly what he's describing here. It's all the talking heads, all the quackademics. Wrap everything up in a you know, it's no different than the Catholics using Latin to obscure Christ from the people, to keep, because it was a buffer between who they wanted to have information and who they didn't. It's the same way today, even though it's a little bit more of a nothing sandwich with the whole heliocentric thing. But all the terminology, all the you know, the terminology, the long-winded vocabulary, it's all just to confuse people, just disorientate them, and to dissuade them from thinking they can figure something out for themselves. That is always phase 2 or phase 3 of geocentric truth, whatever truth, any truth you're learning. I forget what I was going to say. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, and if you can't express it simply, you don't know it. Also, from like the teacher perspective, and that's the thing too, is like having to teach all different levels of educated people. Like I've gotten to a level of mastery with certain things just because I've been teaching it for so long, and I've had to learn different ways of saying something that might, like he said, it seems complicated, but it really isn't. Like all this stuff seems like it's hard, but it's not. It's just a level of dedication. Like truth comes. Like if you ask, God provides. So like you just have to be persistent and diligent with your search, and then it comes, and then it distills and it gets cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. It gets more and more refined.
So we've got some callers in. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. And hey, we don't want to hear your whole life story. Okay. We don't want to hear where you're from and who your grandma knew one time and this connection about your hometown that everyone needs to hear about. We don't care. If you got a question, topic for Garner, that'd be awesome. But thank you. So for Garner, that'd be awesome. Jaden, what's up, dude? You're gonna have to mute us on the other screen. How you doing, man? Jaden, what's up, dude? You're gonna have to mute us on the other screen.
Can you hear me?
Jaden,
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Mute it.
Mute the whatever you're
Okay,
watching.
yeah. So, yeah, I think my question would be specifically Latin.
Uh-oh. Mercury is
And
rich.
like, it's an invented language, and it's just something that there's not a lot online. I mean, I just keep getting kind of running into roadblocks, and I'm curious if either of you guys could elaborate specifically on kind of why it was invented and why. I mean, like you mentioned, Catholicism using and stuff. It's really interesting. I just can't really learn a lot about it. I think learning with like spells and magic, and legalese and stuff. It just seems very interesting of the language.
Yeah, I probably can't say much more than it is an exceedingly complex language that could never develop organically. Exceedingly complex language that could never. It's an excessively complex language. It would never have originated like that. With all the suffixes and different tenses and things like that. It was created to be complex and to obscure higher religious truths from the lower classes or the middle class. People who couldn't read Latin would have to hear it translated from a preacher on the church's payroll who was transmitting it out loud into the people's language, because you weren't allowed to print it. How about this? Okay, all you need to know about Latin is the Bible wasn't written in Latin, right? But why was the Bible only allowed to be printed in Latin for a couple hundred years, right? If not more. Well, here, and I muted you because your mic was you've got to mute us on what you're watching us on so that you can talk, because we hear the loop. So Jordan, I'll bring you back in. Jaden, you there? All right, well, his audio issues. You're unmuted. We can't hear you. I'm gonna bring someone else on. I hope that question sufficed, or I hope that answer sufficed. It wasn't an organically created language. It was created by an ecclesiastic class that wanted to obscure the truth. So they made a complex language that the peasants would never be able to learn unless they devoted their life and all of their energy to being, a monk or something like that. So Latin, hope that. Okay. Do you have anything to say about Latin?
I know nothing about languages.
Yeah, I don't speak Latin.
Yeah, I'm not the person. I listen to like you guys and Dylan Secotio and Chance and all those guys about languages. To me, it's all Latin to me, literally.
Shelia. Hastings, what's up, dude?
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah,
Loud and clear, man.
Awesome. That guy needed to mute his stuff. Yeah. I just have a general ancient architecture question.
Sure.
I have probably seen every single video out there on the web. There's obviously something up with the architecture that we just can't create it again. It is mind-blowingly good. It stands the test of time, and some of the stories are just ridiculous. So this is my question. So what is all of history fake then? Like, what did George Washington like not exist? Like did you know, they never wrote about these absurd buildings, or did they? Like, did they come across them? Like, basically, and the kind of the second part of that question is like, how far back are you certain like that was real? Like, it is at least like plausible. If that's a good start to that question.
I think there's a lot of TikTok truthers out there who would like to convince you Nikola Tesla wasn't real. There's people who are trying to say, Tesla was real. Tesla was real. If there's counter movements, right? You have the movement saying, oh, yeah, Tesla came out with all this cool stuff. Then they tried to cover him up. Then you have this counter movement today where people are saying, oh, no, that's the psyop. Tesla didn't exist. Well, that's BS. Okay. I just went to the electrotherapy museum with a guy who got patents and signature documents and materials straight from Tesla's family out of Chili's. And, they're Serbian and they're racist like other Serbians, and they're talking, and everything, matches. For it to be a psyop it's too extreme. These people need to read books. Okay. So there's people who want to uproot your entire faith in Western history. Okay.
True.
Those people don't serve you unless they're going to teach you and show you the true history, unless they're providing you firm footing. Flush them down the toilet. Okay. I know exactly the breed. There's TikTok truthers who are saying, guess what? Everything you've ever thought was real is not real at all. And, is there things that need to be rectified? Yes. But America's America. We live in the best fucking country there's ever been for a reason. No amount of Tartaria, idiocy can take that away from us. All right. There's a reason nations are different from each other, and that's due to their history. And if you track their history back a little bit, 150 years, you can see why the area you live is different than other areas. This is what idiots who sit on their mom's couch making TikToks about oh, look at that building. Look at that. I'm talking about John Levy, by the way. These are people who are going to tell you everything you've ever seen is fake. Everything. I've never read the book. Therefore, no one's ever read the book. And it can't exist because I can't think of how this would work. Now, if you can't point, if these people aren't going to instruct you, if they're only here to tear down history, okay, that's because they're upset and they're bitter with their own lives. So there's a lot of this Tartaria nonsense that is trying to tear down real history because they've never read the history, okay? So when you ask about George Washington, yes, George Washington existed, okay? Yes, these people existed. Benjamin Franklin existed. No, they weren't black. They weren't black. They were real. They lived in America, and they built great things. Did they possibly find great things? Is America perhaps a stolen nation? Yes. But is a stolen nation unique to one timeline, or are we just finding out about this? No. It's called the right of conquest. People have been taking each other over for millions of years and writing the people they took over out of history. Mm-hmm. Okay? My enemy didn't exist. What he built is mine. That's time old. You don't need a reset. You don't need a plasma event, mud flood for that to occur. Okay, these people need the mud flood because that's what their channel, that's the lifeblood of their channel. They need the next reset because they need the lifeblood of their channel is the dread that this could happen in your lifetime. Okay? This is the whole movement. It's backwards. And if they're not teaching, they need to be flushed down the toilet because the TikTok truth serves nothing except it undermines American history. It undermines world history. It undermines the white man. And I'm going to rectify that in this lifetime. I promise you. Okay. I'm going to give everyone their due, but you will note that this Tartarian movement is getting more and more anti-white, anti-European. Oh, these glorious European cities. Europeans made those. Let's get that straight. Okay. Skin color is another thing, but people build things where they live. They're proud of what they've built. And these Tartarian idiots need to stop ripping history away from people. Okay. Just because someone's history has been taken away, you'll find this a lot. People who don't know their history feel the need to steal someone else's. People whose history has been stolen feel like, oh, it doesn't matter if I steal someone else's history. So I think I'm going to put a lot of these Tartarian people to bed forever. Okay. in a series of targeted videos, because if they're not here to make America better, okay, they need to leave. They need to bury their head under the mud. The mud flood is one of the biggest psyops I've ever heard. If you find me buildings that you can dig great things of mud out of, great. But I know people who are rearranging their life. Really, this is why I'm a little impassioned right now. I know people who are rearranging their life because they're afraid the next mud flood's coming, the next plasma event. Okay? Right? There's all these channels out there that want you to question everything in the wrong way because they're not going to give you anything to build back up. And I've only named one name. So, and it's not that one guy that I'm upset at. It's,
But what about the Phoenix event, dude?
the Phoenix event is Archaix's retirement fund.
Exactly.
Okay. That's timed for his Archaix. That's okay. The Phoenix event is him when he's 70-ish, 75-ish. Okay. What is he, 50 right now ish? And whatever. He's saying that there's never been a person over 137 years, something like that. But whatever. That guy's an alcoholic. He's a barbecue addict. His crimes against women are deplorable. Okay. And believe me, women deserve some crimes every once in a while. Okay. But
I ain't saying you should hit her. I understand.
I'm joking. I'm making light of a very serious issue. This guy's disgusting. He's a charlatan. Okay. I have pondered the deepest text possible, the deepest text available to the human. I have peered over and I have, it's nonsense. This guy quotes the same Blavatsky paragraph, Steiner, and Manly P. Hall. That's his entire cosmology. Then he weaves in this dark, the world's going to end in my lifetime. There is no more narcissistic thought that has ever occurred to man than I am so special. I am so important that the world is going to end in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. There is not a more narcissistic thought on the earth. And you will find these people peddling out this nonsense with their own brand, their own package, YouTube channel from YouTube channel. You'll not find a smidge of that on mine. Has history been lost? Sure. I hope I can teach it to you. I hope I can fill in some of the gaps. These people don't want to fill in gaps. They want more gaps. They see something sturdy. They want to knock it down. They want to see something hold. They see something lasting. They want to prove it never lasted. You understand? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm into the language.
Pretty concise. I mean, Tartaria is starting to mean so many different things that it's losing any meaning it ever even had. Like, to begin with, there's so many things that is being thrown into. So, but yeah, that's a pretty comprehensive response. One thing I do want to point out, though, is if you look at some photos of San Francisco from like 1870s, like it was supposedly, the 49er gold rush. The layout of the city for 20 years, 30 years is mind blowing. Now, I'm not open, I'm totally open to any explanation, but some of these photos show like countless steeples, multi-story brick, highly advanced, not like alien advanced, but just the surveys alone of the city are pretty mind-blowing for 20 years for a gold rush town. Some of that seems very interesting to me. Now, I'm not throwing in the mud flood or any other that nonsense like that, but some of these like questions I have are like, dang, dude, like some of them, like I didn't know pioneers could build like that with horse and buggy.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Mud flood is not, there's nothing wrong with it, but people make it their whole persona and think that's the thing that, ruined us. And if it weren't for that darn mud flood, we'd still be in our 5D astral light body, Tesla tech med bed. All the children would be up from New York. All the children would be up from Central Park, and it'd be a sunny day forever. It's delusion. But the mud flood, there's something there, no doubt. Okay. And with San Francisco, like I said, you're seeing stone architecture here, and most of this went down in a fire as the result of an earthquake, we're told. I don't think so. And this architecture is glorious. Like you're saying, it doesn't add up to frontier building. This is 1890s, but still.
It's mind-blowing. It has like veins of empire, like a very strong empire, like completely not what you would think of a brand new city that had sprung up from greed of gold.
Right.
Nope.
Yeah, and hey, the Full House, the Full House
Oh,
is
dude,
even,
what's deeper about that? What's going on? Oh my gosh.
well, just that whole style is these Victorian townhouse styles where they're really tall and close and together. Some of those houses are made out of solid stone.
Wow.
Solid stone. So it doesn't make sense if it's a space saver build them narrow like that. Why are you building it out of a material that's going to stay there like almost forever? But Toph, you want to jump in on any of this?
We are definitely misinformed about our past. I mean, without a doubt. I just in my own family history, seeing how invented, like on one side of my family, we've been here since the 1600s. So like I have family lineage all the way back to the beginning of this country. And like, I've always maintained that we come from dignified roots. The main psyop, I would say, on people's consciousness is that we're the most evolved that we've ever been. And like tying this back to Victor Schauberger, he always said, you will always know where a society is by the quality of their water, their forests, and their music. And it's obvious in today's world, architecture is just frozen music. So in today's world, our music isn't the best. Our water is definitely degraded and our forests are degraded. So I've always maintained that we live in an entropic system. That means like as things get older, they degrade. And I think that's God's way of making us humble. The hubris of youth can only last for so long. But then the system itself degrades. And these buildings that I've been exposed to, some of these buildings that were built by our progenitors, man, I'm not saying that we can't build them now. I just don't think the story that we were given fits. The money doesn't fit. The timing doesn't fit. just the level of consciousness that goes into some of these things. Some of the cathedrals that I was in, the level of consciousness that goes into a building like that is so high. So I kind of feel like I think there's been a degradation in the field, you know, in this plane of existence for a while, and we're all kind of just suffering from that. And it's up to us to like create what it is that we actually want. Oh, look at you. 30-year sentence aggregate. Ooh, that's brutal.
It was in my cold, dark cell that I pondered the meaning of existence.
Is his voice
And
real, or do you think that he kind of plays it up?
I think that's what happens when you are on a nothing but alcohol and barbecue diet. You just, I don't know, man. I think the tongue is just stiffened up. It's not articulate.
Speaking of diet, I watched your orange juice content through the time, and I have upped a lot of my orange intake. And I have to tell you, like, that has probably been the coolest thing ever. Like, just increased everything. I feel like you just name it, it's a good thing. It's like even juice and just the raw fruit format. Like it is really a wonderful plant.
This body is nothing but a vessel. Anything I put through this vessel cannot affect me. I am transcendent. Okay? He actually tells people, I can drink as much liquor as I want because I've transcended digestion. Okay. I don't know what I'm wrong about, but he makes everything up on the fly. He is a sexual predator. Okay. Criminal. You wouldn't spend 15 minutes with this guy. Carol, I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, Carol. You're telling me you'd get anywhere close to this guy? Go give him a hug. Go give him a hug. Yeah. Tell me you don't have chills running up your spine getting anywhere close to this. Okay?
I don't feel comfortable, and I just watch him through a screen.
He's garbage. Can't agree with you more.
Mr. Bitcoin himself. Awesome.
You know this guy? You know Satoshi?
No, that's the man. That's the Bitcoin man, right?
That's the pseudonym of the creator of Bitcoin. Yeah.
Oh, nice. But yeah. So there's the receipts. I mean, he did what he's accused of doing. He's so delusional. He actually tells people, they set me up. Oh, it was a quantum leap. It was a quantum leap where they knew the work I was going to unfold in this lifetime. Therefore, they sent an dark agent into the past to... He literally says that they sent a John Connor fucking Terminator back in time to frame him at 17 or 19, whatever, for sexual assault against an innocent girl that he actually paid the price for. Okay. And it was during that incarceration that I pondered the meaning of and a great comment earlier I saw is he had he had the fucking Hogwarts library in the Texas prison, apparently, was able to study up on everything. And this guy's he's not common. He's an extraordinary charlatan. Okay. If people can't see this themselves, I'm happy to point it out. I would say this to his face. He's not in any community I'm anywhere near. So all of this passion that's coming out is me trying to distance myself from him. I know people watch my stuff and watch his stuff. I don't get it. I think he's anti everything I stand for. If there are people like this guy, John Levy, Jason Breshears, who want you. Are these people any better than the Darwinists? Are these people any better than the Christians telling everyone that they're sinners, that they're worthless worms, wretched ants on a vast, meaningless expanse? You know, you're just a nothingness in the infinite expanse of time and space. Oh, that's what the Darwinists and the Big Bang people will tell you. Is that any different with John Levy telling you, you're just an ant. You're just an ant waiting to get reset again. We're just here on this plane. We don't know anything. We're just here waiting to get reset. And I'm feeling pretty sad this week. So to me, that doesn't fill me up with anything. That doesn't invigorate me. That doesn't want me to go fix what's wrong. I'm just waiting around, waiting to get screwed over again. Okay. And then Brashear with his simulation theory. This guy needs to stop watching the fucking Matrix on repeat. Okay. There's no simulation. You're in a body. You're in a world divinely ordained. Yes. Are you limited to the material existence? No. Is that all we need to fucking talk about all day? No. The simulation is nature. You live here. It's real. Okay. It's not real because your senses demand it's real. Yes, there's more to be understood, but enjoy life. You're not in a fucking simulation. Okay. You're not just waiting around this life to enjoy something better in the next one. That is the ultimate scheme that has been tried time and time again throughout history.
Do you know what his the core of his whole thing is? Like, have you heard it?
I haven't watched enough. Would you tell me?
So like a year ago when he popped on the scene, I went ahead and listened, and I was like, okay, because whenever somebody new comes on, I want to get their cosmology, right? Like I want to know exactly what the cosmology is. His is a combination of the Matrix meets Battlestar Galactica. When you get all the way down to it, he says that we're all on a spaceship traveling from this galaxy to Andromeda. And the simulation that we're in is we're just simulating ourselves in the earthly drama. And I was like, oh my God, dude, you're not even giving attention to good sci-fi.
He's mixing Blavatsky with sci-fi authors, and then he's throwing in his own little Jim Jones. What's the spaceship called? Sorry, the California.
Oh yeah. I can see the crazy guy.
Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate.
Yeah.
He's a Heaven's. It's okay. You tell me that belief system isn't one that perfectly works its way up to, oh, hey, everyone, the material existence is suffering. We need to leave the material existence. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we'll just die. Well, no, there's this thing coming up and we need to die before the thing. So we're all going to get together and escape the simulation. You watch me. You watch. I promise you, it's going to go somewhere dark with this crowd. The simulation, the mud floods. It's, oh, what's next? Oh, we're just little ants on this little rock. Helpless little ants. Just, okay. I'm done. I've gotten it all out.
Appreciate the explanations and everything. Have you ever seen the creator? He has a channel called My Lunch Break by chance?
No.
He doesn't
No.
dive into the mud. It's just he just rips on all of these fires that have burned stone cities down. And last time I checked, stone really can't burn that well.
Yeah, that's been a big question I've had, because masonry, especially depending, a lot of these buildings that we're told had wooden framed roofs, which makes sense. You frame the rafters.
Yeah.
But this was before the time of plywood. So what they would do is they would essentially do lath and then the lath has this thick masonry on it, and then they would be, you know, have some sort of tile on top. Like the fires that they show, like when you actually look at the pictures of like Chicago and St. Louis and St. Charles, like all these cities, you're not really seeing remnants of fire. You're seeing remnants of explosion. You're seeing rubble.
Right? I didn't know that fire could cause spontaneous, 500-pound rubble to like be spread everywhere. And then also some of the firefighting department, like apparently in Chicago, like their method for controlling the fire was to use dynamite and like to like cause more explosions. Like again, super.
I just think they use the same old script in the sense of whenever history needs to be rewritten, there's some sort of disaster. So whether they'll create the disaster, like, you know, in Dresden, they burned Dresden down to the ground using phosphorus bombs, right? Like I'm of the mind that there's some sort of tech. Like, look at that rubble. Like what is that? History of Florida? Like, that's rubble. I don't see char. I burn things for a living. My company's name is BioCharisma. I make biochar. If I was to set a building on fire, you would see all these black marks of where the fire's coming out the windows. You don't see evidence of fire there. That's not fire related. That's something that exploded.
I mean, directed energy weapons are all the rage right now in a lot of the TikToks and stuff, but this just looks like almost like vibrational, like just massive.
Well, this is the thing. Tesla had an oscillator in the 1920s. He could oscillate something that's like the size, like I think it was the size of this. It was an oscillator, and it was a resonant oscillator. And if you get to a certain level of resonance, it adds energy to the system. And he said, I could take down any building in New York City. And he said, with sufficient energy, I could split the world in half with an oscillator that's this size. Because the material realm is a concrescence of interference patterns, right? So if you actually have the right frequencies, if you have the right harmonies, you can cause tremendous damage without the need of, like, you know, everything in Hollywood with like missiles and, you know, huge bombs and stuff. Like, so much of that stuff is just, you know, I think for people that are into fireworks. But like, there are other technologies out there that are more subtle, you know, and that do just as much damage.
I mean, look at the foliage that's still standing right there. Like, wouldn't you expect that to be burnt up? Like, if this was a raging fire? Like,
yeah, it's just like, you know, yes, structures can fail when everything's been burned out underneath them, but everything looks toppled here and hit from the side, almost like hit from the side. You know, you don't even really see like the rectangular frames left over.
No,
you just see like swings, almost like a wrecking ball. I'm not saying that's what I think, but it looks thorough, like things are being razed to the ground. And look at the tower. The tower is standing fine over there. This tower here. It just doesn't make sense. And I tell this story a lot, how the people fleeing this fire, 1901 Jacksonville, the people fleeing this, people were watching the fire from, like, you know, hundreds of yards away, a mile away, I don't know, hillside. They were far away and they were viewing it. They thought they were in no danger whatsoever. And they were watching the whole town burn. And there was nothing you could do back then. They knew it was burning, so they were just watching. Well, then certain items started combusting on people's necks, right? Of things they're wearing. And it wasn't sparks touching down and catching. Or at least that's what they thought it was, sparks at first. The story goes, this guy who was watching his town burn calls a taxi, or there's a cab or a stagecoach right there. I don't remember. And he gets in the taxi with his family. They're driving away. Okay? They're rolling away. And when they're inside the coach, certain items on them start combusting, turning on fire. And they have to get out of the coach and take things off. And that sounds like an energy weapon.
That's energy. And I'm in the ballpark with Martin Lidke of Flat Earth British, where he talks about the what are they called? The Roman fasces. So you have like this cylinder. It looks like a Gatling gun, essentially, from this. If you were looking at it from the top or the bottom, but it's a cylinder and a cylinder and a cylinder, and you see all these famous battle pictures that have been painted over the last 500 years, and you'll always see a general with a flag, and then you'll see the minstrels, and and then you'll see some guys carrying fasces. And fasces looks exactly like a Wilhelm Reich cloudbuster. Now, I've built a Wilhelm Reich cloudbuster. They do what they claim to do. They do, well, however they work. I can't say exactly what orgone is, but it changes the landscape. And it doesn't do it by means that modern electricians would be able to tell you. I think the organs that were in these cathedrals, these fasces, there's a whole technology around resonance that has been taken out of the public domain, that once you get resonance, you get concrescence. If you get concrescence and it's a certain frequency, you can take down towns. Anything that is a harmonic of that would start to ignite. That's why these people jump in the car. Who knows why their clothes, maybe their clothes were in some resonant pattern with whatever was already igniting, and bam, it ignites. And it's a tech that I think is so glossed over. People want to talk about dues, and all they're talking about are fucking laser beams. I'm like, guys, they haven't needed visual laser beams for 100 fucking years. Like, get over it. Half of this stuff is what's it called? Infrasonic. There's things that work on pitches, and there's, vibrations that are inaudible, and also you can't see it, invisible to us. Most of them are, that cause tremendous destruction and could cause things to self-ignite, could cause that spontaneous combustion. And it's, as Dr. Judy Wood put it, it's not the same type of fire that we know of. It's not like you're, lighting a newspaper and then lighting some wood in your fireplace. It's not that type of fire. It's a totally different type of fire. And that's why I really liked listening to her and her terminology and talking with her about her terminology, because she made up new words for phenomenon that we're not used to.
Shelly, I'm in. Hastings, bro. Anything else before I let you go?
No, appreciate the time. My gummies are kicking in too, so I'm gonna hit the head back. Appreciate it, everybody. I'll see you around. What's up?
Are you a Sagittarius?
I'm an Aries.
Okay, nice. Yeah,
Why?
You're fiery.
All right, peace, guys. Thanks.
You have a brow ridge. What's your heritage?
British, Irish.
Yeah. You see, look at his brow ridge, guys. Okay. Now look at my brow ridge.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's an Irish thing. Um,
Cool, man. Well, cheers, guys. Thanks for chatting. I'll see you around. Bye.
for sure. Hastings, good night, dude.
See ya.
Thanks for bearing with the rants. Bam Cam, what's up, yo?
What's up, Longo?
Chilling. Good to have.
Could
How
you
you
hear me?
doing? Yes, sir.
Just here stalking the Flagler College in the background. You guys going to come up to St. Augustine for one of your moon meetouts?
Yes.
Cool. Hey, those stones that you showed before in the harbor, I think those were the original breakwater walls before
Yeah.
they built the seawall. The ones that you showed submerged.
Mm-hmm. That's according to someone. I don't know if they were up higher or what, but yeah, that's where they would bring the boats right up to trade at the city square, the market right there, where the pavilion is, the bandstand.
Yeah. I don't know if Tartarians or Tartars are the same thing, but my daughter's godmother is a Tartar, and she was born in a gulag actually in Siberia because her mother was locked up as a Tartar because apparently the Soviets were afraid of the Tartars for some reason. And so she became a political prisoner just based on that alone. So that's the story that I was told, that the Soviet governments are afraid of the Tartars. And I don't know if that's Tartarians or how far back that goes. But anyway, hey, those where I live in Palm Coast, we have exposed coquina stone. And some of those Saxor stones seem to form naturally. Like even the holes in them seem to form when other coquina sand that gets on top kind of gets washed back and forth quite a ways. And if you're ever up in Palm Coast, just south of Marineland on the beach, you can see those stones in their natural form.
Yeah.
They're kind of a trip. So if you ever get a chance to check those out. But anyway, just want to stop in and say hi. Just here watching the little kids go in and out of the Flagler College with their blue hair now and their nose rings. So
They're not deserving of that architecture.
No, dude, look. So there's Villa Zareta right there. And
Oh, dude, you're on scene. That's what I figured. Here, let me show you.
There's a Flagler Museum right there, and there's Flagler College. So yeah.
He's on site, y'all.
Yeah, dude, doing some live on the ground reporting. There's the famous horse carriages, and there's J.P. Morgan Chase's building. So he's still hanging out here somewhere in the afterlife, I guess. But yeah, just chilling. So anyway, I just want to pop in and say hi, and just say thanks for what you're doing. Hey, you should do a challenge for some of your viewers to do a fruitarian diet. See if anybody loses any weight or has any good results on it.
They definitely lose weight. I don't think anyone's doubting that. You'd lose weight on fruitarian. Most people. That's a good idea, though, for sure, man. So you live near St. Augustine?
Yeah, I live in Palm Coast actually, but I get up to St. Augustine quite a bit.
And can I touch on the anchors? You bring up a good point. You know, in the Saxor stones, the Saxor saga, we never make a big deal out of. I'm going to mute you for a little bit. Sure. You're rolling. We never make a big deal out of how the holes were made. To me, that's not the wow factor. You know, people will use what's advantageous. So if there's things with holes, they would make them. Now, my only thing against that would be, I've been to blowing rocks. I've seen solution holes in, you know, like coastal, like limestone formations. Some of them get pretty round, right? What you would have to have is them consistently cutting out the ones with the roundest holes. And what you just mentioned was coquina, especially, tends to form like this. Well, guess what? Coquina only comes out of the northeast coast. To find it in Tampa Bay alone denotes or tells us there was some empire, something brought it from there to there. That's a 5,000-pound stone, if not more, most of them. I would say, number one, solution holes happen. And a solution hole, if it happened and was round, would have been taken advantage of. No different than a hole that was man-made.
Yeah,
right?
for sure. For
Why
sure.
make something if you can't if you can replicate it? I want to show you one more thing. Is damn, bro, you getting roped? Sorry, I saw the cops go by. I'm trying to pull up this
Oh, no,
anchor.
that's fentanyl people probably getting rolled right now.
Yep. I want to show you pictures of some of the anchors in museums in Florida.
Yeah.
Because what you're saying is right. You know, solution holes could be taken advantage of. However, we find anchors all the time that are about dinner plate sized, that
Yeah.
are not solution holes. So we know for a fact that holes were getting bored perfectly through rocks. Some of the sacks or stones, I can show you, cannot have been a solution hole. They are bored perfectly.
Yeah.
Now, those are some of the most compelling in terms of ancient machining. There's no way around it. This wasn't like a ring job. You've got a straight through bored hole in a weight that we know for a fact was used by Florida natives. Now that, you know, a solution hole could have formed naturally on one of those big rocks.
Yeah, I sent you some pictures on your Instagram through messages. I don't know if you got them, of like our local beach, so you could see how, because our whole beach gets exposed coquina stone after any like major storm activity. So you can see them like in the natural state. And for sure they probably were used, just picked up and all that stuff. Another interesting thing is you talk a lot about drogue stones. Coquina would probably make a really good drogue stone because of the porousness of the surface, would act like kind of like a golf ball underwater, where it would reduce the drag as it's moving through the water. That's at least what I've been told. Lev Tolstoy actually started Marineland, which is just north of us. And in front of his old house, it actually sounds like bubbles all the time. And that's just the water passing over the coquina where his house used to be. It's a trip.
Now, you know, I've actually, some geologists will actually tell you that a lot of these holes are sable palms or palmetto trees that, I kid you not, I don't believe that. There's no way that's true. But
no, that's not true.
The straight parallel holes, when they see 3 parallel holes, similar size, almost identical. That's another thing, is that some of these sacks or stones have 2 holes parallel, and they're the same size. So a solution hole, it could be a great starting point for a bit, right?
Yeah.
If you've got a solution hole, and then you can file it out to make it perfectly round, even better.
If you ever get a chance to come up to Marineland, just walk the beach south, and you can see like these giant areas of coquina stone where they're just Swiss cheesed, just from wave action. And when the coquina breaks down into sand, it's very coarse, and then it becomes like a liquid sandpaper, I think, too, which kind of speeds up some of that process for at least the stones that are there. DeSantis's family actually has a house in Palm Coast, and they have 2 Saxor stones right on the front driveway. It's kind of interesting, like
really
little secret. Yeah, it's right across from, I won't tell anybody on the internet where it is, but yeah, if you ever come this way, I'll tell you how to see it, I guess. So if you want to send out a thing for DMs or something. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. There's a lot of people use them for stones when there's really big storm activity, like surges. Sometimes they'll wash from the ocean into the intercoastal too, so they do get moved around a little bit if there's like a really big hurricane. But yeah, certainly if they're on Tampa Bay in that area, it would only make sense that people would pick them up off the beach or drag them off the beach and use them as boat anchors, because they're literally everywhere up here. It's insane. So yeah,
absolutely. Well, thanks, Fam Cam. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for the on the boots, on scene.
Yeah, Come up
Appreciate
for Moon
it.
Meat sometime. Well, I'll bring some of those Soli fruit bars. I
Okay.
don't know if those things are any good, but all right, man.
Peace.
Later.
Night night. All right, Toph.
Longo, I'm fading hard.
No worries. Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up. Guys, go check him out. Biocharisma, topherhq.com. Right, you saw pretty really good website too. Not only is the stuff good, but you have a good website.
Thank you.
For sure. And go check him out. We're gonna have him on again soon as we can get him. But thanks for sticking through with all the rants and stuff. Shout out to Amun Hotep Chavez El Bey, author of America is the True Old World. We carry that at our bookstore. Okay.
Ooh, I want to read that.
Yeah, it deals mostly with the Southwest. But yeah, of course,
That's
man.
cool.
Amun Hotep Chavez El Bey. Yeah, we got it at the bookstore, dude. We got like 5 copies. I'm slanging them to people. You're gonna have to get me some royalties eventually. You're gonna have to get me some commission eventually, Mr. El Bey. Just kidding. We're happy to carry it, but go check his stuff out. That's a good book. Anyone interested in old world America? But yeah, we're all about Topher tonight, so go check out Topher.
Woohoo!
And stay tuned to what he's got going on. He's making some great appearances on other channels, for sure.
Awesome,
Here.
brother. Thank you for having me tonight.
One last thing. Mr. Chavez, hit me up. We can make it happen. On Instagram, oldworldflorida at hotmail.com. I'd be happy to interview you on the channel. People would love that. Plenty of information on Florida. Okay, good. Well, we'll carry this conversation on elsewhere. Shout out to him. Topher, have a good night, man. Thanks for joining
You
us.
too. Good to see you, my friend.
For sure. You as well. Always good stuff.
All right.
Night, everyone.